think that was from this book. Now I'm like questioning myself. We'll do a part 2, I think. We'll do a part 2. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to be doing another video in the Amie Recommends series, and I'm going to be recommending to you some of my favourite diverse fantasy. Honestly, one thing that I am super incredibly passionate about is reading diversely. Especially with fantasy, I feel like it can be really easy to fall into a trap of reading super hyped books which aren't really very diverse. And don't get me wrong, I do love some of that fantasy. I still read it. However, I always usually prefer a diverse book, and I much prefer supporting those authors as well. And yes, I'm just super passionate about reading diversely across all genres. But today I'm going to be sharing my favourites within fantasy. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Honestly, there's way too many to speak about, so this is probably going to be like an ongoing series. So consider this Amie Recommends Diverse Fantasy Part 1. Today I'm going to talk about some of my absolute favourites, and without further ado, let's get into it. So the first one that I want to talk about is actually super close to my heart, because this time last year, when the pandemic struck, this book got me back into reading in a big way, and it is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This had sat on my shelf for a very long time, and pandemic hit. I had about 5 books on my bookshelf. This was one of them. Oh, how things change. And yeah, I just thought I'd pick it up again, and I loved it so much. I'm really going to struggle to remember specifics about a lot of these books, and I'm really sorry about it. Basically, Tomi Adeyemi is a Nigerian American author, and she has written 2 books so far. This one, the sequel, and then I hope there's a 3rd one on the way. This first book follows our main character Zeli, and magic used to exist in Arisha, and it has disappeared. And basically, under the king's order, the people with magic had been killed. Her mother was amongst those people, and now Zeli wants to try and bring magic back. It's really fast paced. It's a fantastic adventure quest style story. I really loved it. I gave this 5 stars, and I'm super excited to reread this as soon as a 3rd book release has been announced. So my knowledge of the book is rusty. I apologise. But yes, I can't tell you how much I loved it. And it was actually one of my favourites of 2020. I think it was my favourite book of 2020. So if that doesn't make you want to go and read it, if you haven't already, what will? The next one I'm going to talk about is The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. Now, the author is actually a trans author, and in the author's note, actually, the author says, I didn't want to tell a story about racism necessarily, there's plenty of that on the news, but a story about a black girl and her sister finding freedom, young women of all types getting into good trouble, underdogs coming together to stand up against the rich and powerful. That sounded exactly like what the doctor ordered, and yes, she summed it up perfectly. So this follows our main characters, Asta and Clementine, they're sisters, and our prologue is from Clementine's perspective, but then going forward we are with Asta. And essentially there are some quite heavy trigger warnings. These girls are in like a house. It's essentially like a brothel, and when they come of age they have to spend a night with a man. So at the very beginning of the book, Clementine has come of age, but she doesn't realise what is in store for her, and she lashes out in a big way when she realises what is expected of her, and her sister Asta comes to the rescue along with 3 other girls from the house, one of which being their sworn enemy, and they escape from the house, and they all have these flower brands on their neck, and they're like magical tattoos essentially that if you try to cover them up they will burn, and so they can't cover them up. They're branded by this house. So it's essentially like an outlaw story. It's like a Western outlaw take. It's so cool, as they like escape from this house and go on an adventure to try and remove their brands. I loved it so much. There's some little sapphic romance in here as well. However, I am banking on the best enemies to lovers turnaround in book 2. I really, really need it. I just need it. Yeah, the second book's coming out this year. Super duper excited for that. And I just loved it so much. I feel like this one hasn't been spoken about too much, but I highly, highly recommend this. The next one probably won't come as a surprise to anybody, but I do recommend checking the trigger warnings before you go and purchase, and it is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyang. This is an Asian inspired fantasy. The author is Asian herself. She grew up between Malaysia and the UK. And basically this story is about a world where the king every year chooses 8 concubines to be his paper girls. The society is tiered, so there's 3 different castes. There's paper castes, which are like humans, they're the lowest level. Then there's steel caste, where you're like half human, half demon. And then there's moon caste, where you're like the top of society and you're like a demon, you've got demon features, you're really, really powerful. So the king is moon caste, and he picks 8 paper caste concubines to be his paper girls. And he picks 8, but then he has a soldier that goes and finds our main character Lei upon the rumour that she has golden eyes, and he forcingly takes her to the palace where she is forced to be the 9th paper girl. And it is just sensational. As I've said before, there's some really, really heavy trigger warnings in here. The author does a fantastic job of introducing them straight away. Obviously before you purchase it, it's good to be aware of them in case there is something in here that will trigger you. This one and the second one are honestly 2 of my favourite books of all time. They're just sublime, like they are stunning. I fell in love with the characters. The sapphic romance in it is honestly to die for. I love it, and yeah, I will never stop recommending this book. The next one I'm going to recommend is Raybearer by Jordan Ifweko, who is a Nigerian American author. This is her debut novel. Crazy. I'll be honest, I'm due a reread of this. My memory of it is foggy, I have to say. However, what I do remember of it is that I gave it 5 stars, so that's good. And it is quite, I remember it being quite complex, but I do remember loving it. So we essentially follow our main character Tarasai, and her mother is known as the Lady. So the Lady has told Tarasai that she has to kill the Crown Prince. Tarasai is compelled to obey, kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. That's like the gist of it. I don't think I did a very good job of explaining that. There's a lot of elements to this, and I'm super excited for the second one. It's going to be a duology, and yeah, I'm really excited for that. And I'll definitely be rereading this before I delve into the second one. I think my brain will really process it after a second read, but I remember loving it a lot. The next one is a fairly new release, and again, I don't think I will ever stop shutting up about it, and it is The Gilded Ones by Namina Fauna. And this is her debut novel, which, like, can you believe that? This is an arc that I was so lucky enough to get, but I think we all know what the final cover is by now. This basically is about our main character Dika. That's how I say it. I don't know if Dika or Daka. And in the society that they live in, you have to prove that you bleed red blood to prove that you are pure. So when you turn 16, I think there's a ceremony where you have to prove that you bleed pure. However, Dika bleeds gold, and she is considered to be a demon, so they lock her up and they essentially try to slaughter her, and it is quite brutal. There are quite a lot of trigger warnings in this one as well. And then we have the introduction of a character called White Hands, who comes to Dika's rescue and basically recruits her to be part of and Amie, because even though they're considered demons, they're really, really powerful girls, and Tika feels like she's alone, but there's actually so many girls just like her. So she goes with White Hands and becomes part of this army to fight the Death Shrieks, which are like the villain as such that's introduced in this book. Honestly, there's so many elements to this. Again, it was incredible. I gave it 5 stars. I cannot wait to read more from this series and this author. Honestly, like, it was incredible. There's a load of really diverse cast members in this book, including queer characters, which we just love to see. I highly recommend this if you haven't managed to pick up a copy yet already. So the final book that I'm going to recommend in this video is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This again is a debut novel. Like, can we just take a moment, because the debut fantasy novels are like throwing it out of the park. This is a King Arthur retelling, and it basically follows our main character Bree, and she goes to college following her mother's death in an accident, and she's a bit suspicious that the accident wasn't all that it was made out to be. And on her very first night at college on campus, she witnesses a magical attack that she's not supposed to have witnessed. I'll read you what it says on the back. It says, a flying demon feeding on human energies, a secret society of so-called Legendborn that hunt the creatures down, a mysterious mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. It's amazing. The story was fast-paced. I was on the edge of my seat. I was really intimidated by this book because the font's quite small and it's like 500 pages, but it's worth it. I promise you, it's so worth it. And if you do read it, be aware that there's a table at the back that really helps explain things, because I wasn't aware of this and my brain was struggling through it. I have to say, like, it is quite complex. Once you wrap your head around like everything that's going on, it's mind-blowing and it's so good. And this is the first book in a series. I don't know how many is going to be in the series, but I need more. I need more now. I love this so much, and this was also a 5-star read for me. There's loads more, as I said, that I could recommend, but I'm just going to make this into a series. So these are the 6 books that I am recommending to you all. They were all so unique and so incredible in their own individual ways, and I truly, truly loved all 6 of these books. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books that I've recommended, let me know what you thought. And if I've persuaded you to buy any of these, please, again, let me know. If you did enjoy this video, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed to my channel and gave this video a like. I post bookish content regularly. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!